Hello, I am Matt Williamson. How's it going? We are wrapping up the week here, a hot week, with your mailbags. I told you yesterday I wanted to mailbag it up yesterday, but I was a little late sending out the bat signal, but got lots of good questions in the meantime. Let's just dig right in here. You know it's true, though, asked, did they not learn from only having one special receiver last year to how teams can scheme against, not to mention if wide receiver one goes down? I think they did learn. I think trading Pickens has been in the cards every step of the way, that he had to go, kind of like Deontay Johnson, that they didn't want him around anymore. I don't think they look at Metcalf as a one-for-one replacement. Well, I think they do. They're different, even though they're both big and they're both downfield guys. But I really think we have to be patient about this. And I know we all got teased about the Ayuk saga last year and all this stuff. But I really think another receiver of consequence will be added. Now, let's give it time to react to who that is. I've said for a while, like, if it's Gabe Davis, Romeo Doubs, somebody like that, okay. If it's Amari Cooper, I'm a little more intrigued. If they trade for a Christian Kirk, I'm a lot more intrigued. Doubs, I guess, would be a little bit better than Davis. So I absolutely think they've learned from that, or even didn't want to get themselves in that situation last year. I mean, it wasn't real. You don't have to be a football expert to realize that when Pickens went down, they became really easy to play against, and that could happen easily. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I very much believe another receiver will be added. If not, then I think this is a really valid question. You know, like, didn't you learn from how bad it could be relying on one guy? And I will say the Arthur Smith offense, for better or worse, is centered around one receiver. Now, that doesn't make it right. I'm not cool with that. You know, they were much better when Corey Davis was the number 2 to A.J. Brown. You know what I mean? And again, what if you would have lost Drake London when he was in Atlanta, or when they lost Pickens last year? So I think another shoe will definitely drop. They have a ton of picks. They're not going to use them all. I think one of those picks becomes a receiver. DJ Marrow asks, Tomlin has a way of handing out jobs before the camp competition. Some right, some wrong. Any chance Johnson gets more carries than Warren this year? I'm going to fight you on the first part of that. I've been going up and living at camp now for quite a while. I mean, not like Dale and those guys have been going for 30-some years. But Dale and Pursuta and the dudes that I hang with that have been doing it for 30-some years will tell you, especially, we're centered around rookies. There aren't many rookies, hardly any, that were awarded starting jobs from the get-go. Pouncey was one. And that's about it. You know, like basically when they arrived on campus, so to speak, that they were starters. For example, Zach Frazier was not a starter when Herbig got hurt. Now, he was on his way to probably taking that job, but the day Herbig got hurt, he was the one center. I do think, and this is a positive thing, not to compare him directly to Pouncey, but Fautanu was definitely starting to take that one job, and it probably was his when he, real early in camp, almost by default. I mean, it's easy to forget this part, but he was the right tackle, and it was Jones and Moore fighting on the left side. And then poor Jones had to go back to the right after the injury. Now back to Johnson and Warren. What I don't think will happen is Warren will lose any of his third down, passing down role. He's good in protection. He's an excellent receiver. He's reliable. He's the veteran. So in terms of the running back pie, he's going to have that. And there will be some carries involved, of course, draws and, even just run the ball in 3rd and 3 or whatever. And then the rest of it, the early down stuff, which obviously there's a lot more carries there, I think will start as a 50-50 split. My hunch and my hope is that as the season goes on, of the early carries, Johnson maybe gets about 2/3 of that work. Sprinkle in a little bit of Gainwell. So when it's all said and done, if I'm right, and Warren is handling the third down stuff, which will be more receptions than carries, and Johnson takes more and more as the carries as he acclimates and gains the trust and all that stuff, I think their carries will probably favor Johnson slightly, but not by massive. Touches might favor Warren when it's all said and done. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. With baseball season in full swing, BetOnline has more ways to stay in the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. We keep the dog days of summer rolling with the largest selection of odds on everything. With updated odds on MLB, UFC, and boxing to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino for all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. We got a few more here. T-Mac256, good friend of the show. Do you think if Queen's below average performance continues, Holcomb and Wilson could be the starting duo if Wilson continues to rise and Holcomb continues where he left off? I like Holcomb a lot. I think he's a high-end number 3 in this situation. I've mentioned I think there will be times when all three actually are on the field together. I'd have a hard time even seeing him surpass Queen, though. I mean, his below average performance still shows up with his speed and his athleticism and ability to cover a lot of ground in the middle of the field that Holcomb has some of, but not to the Queen level. Now, a lot of you have asked in the last day or two, could Wilson become the green dot guy? And then the de facto number 1. That I could see. By all accounts, Wilson is very cerebral, certainly dating back to NC State. Showed a lot of that as a rookie, but you definitely don't want your green dot guy being a rookie. With the situation as it is, I think Wilson and Queen both project as every down linebackers. And it might do Queen a lot of good just to get that off his plate, just run and hit. I mean, that seems like his style of play. And I'm not implying he's dumb or can't do it all, but one less thing to think about. Just be an athlete, run around with your hair on fire, let Wilson handle all the other stuff. That I could see. Austin Porter, if you had to put your money on something that will work better in the Steelers' offense as opposed to last year, what would it be? First one, we've talked about this a lot just this week, is I'll guarantee their sack numbers go down. Well, let me preface this. As long as the whole offensive line doesn't get injured, I think their sack numbers will go down, and I think their run game will be more efficient. You guys have been following me know that one of my big goals this year is you can't be at 4.1 yards per rush, which is at the very bottom of the league. Let's get to 4.4. Well, maybe they don't reach my goal, but I do think it will be better than 4.1. It'll be more efficient. And my logic is several reasons here. First off, I think the O-line improves as it ages. Injuries aside, of course. Injuries could derail both these predictions. I think Johnson is definitely a better scheme fit than Najee, and he has more big playability as a ball carrier. All those things add up. As important is, I think Rodgers will get them out of bad run plays. More so than Wilson, more so than anyone, that he will check to the proper run plays. Now, he has a reputation of checking outer runs into throws. Jets fans will tell you all about that. But I definitely think those are the two things that I would hang my hat on as improvements. More efficient run game, fewer sacks, which over the course of a 17-game season could be a lot more first downs, a lot more time possession, make life easier on the defense, etc. Oakdilla asked me, do you think Derek Harmon will be a significant upgrade? The teams will be unable to focus all their attention on TJ. Last year, he was getting triple teamed. Well, I don't think it's a Harmon thing. I think it's going to have to be a group effort, starting with the defensive coordinator. TJ has publicly said he is more apt to move to the left, to the right, to move around, etc., than just stay in the static position to the quarterback's right. That'll help a little, but it's not like he's hard to find. But still, all the other top pass rushers move around. The Garretts, the Bosos, the Parsons, etc. But I just think that their defensive front, I know some of you don't agree with me, but their defensive front to me is clearly the best one in the entire league. Not the off-the-ball linebackers necessarily, the defensive line, from TJ to Highsmith and everyone in between. And it should be a lot deeper this year. And every team is going to scheme around Watt, and his numbers reflected that a little. But I do think they have to do a little bit better job of maybe bringing more blitzes, which will take some of those blockers aside. Scheming things up to maybe not necessarily always free him, but make teams pay more for doubling him, tripling him, etc. And some of that is coverage on the back end. Make the quarterback pat the ball because he can't just get it out right away. And frankly, because I think their D-line is so good, it's almost like he's Casey Hampton. If Casey Hampton takes up a double team or a triple team, Kendrell Bell's making a ton of tackles. If TJ has poor numbers next year, but is still getting doubled like crazy and demanding a lot of hands on him on every snap, Harmon, Hayward, Benton, Herbig, Highsmith should all have close to career years. See what I'm saying? Paul asks our last question of the day. Would you trade Alex Highsmith for a DJ Moore, Chris Olave level receiver? I'm not undervaluing Highsmith, just wondering which would improve the team more overall given the depth the Steelers have at edge. It's a good question. I understand it. My short answer is no. I just think receivers are easier to find than edge guys. And I love Herbig, but I don't want him playing every down, which I think is why Sawyer's here. And I wouldn't love Watt and just that rotation on the right side. Again, you're one injury away from all of a sudden it becoming a weakness. I would love to get Olave. I'd love to get DJ Moore. I'd love to get someone of that caliber. Olave is really exciting to me. I don't know if you can get him or not. But I would much rather give up draft picks, which you have even more of than you do edge defenders. So that's my short take of it. And I know last offseason is not a great example of this, but receivers are always available. I mean, if you look at the trade deadline year after year, there's Mike Williams isn't a great example because he's not a great player, but there are receivers to be had year after year. Edge defenders are just much harder to find. Hope that answers it. And I do think you and everyone's really starting to realize that Highsmith is probably the 10th to 15th best edge defender in the league, which has a lot of value. So I'm just pretty happy rolling with that. All right, everyone. Thanks. This was a blast. As always, I will record something for you Sunday, so it's in your ears Monday morning. All right. Over and out.